Florida State looked like the best team in college football after that week one 31 consecutive point outing against LSU, pulling away from the Tigers in that one. But then last week, as a 25-point pick by Vegas, they slipped by Boston College. We've got Clemson coming off a couple easy games after that, a big disappointment on opening weekend. Clemson, Florida State for possible lead and championship position in the ACC. We got Steve Merrill here from Wager Talk TV, wagertalk.com. And Steve is so graciously gives us the information, the insight across the landscape of college football. So check out the various team channels. Ohio State, Oregon included this week. Of course, the Buckeyes playing Notre Dame, Oregon, Colorado, and others. And Steve also gives us that exclusive under the radar selection right here at the Voice of College Football on Patreon. And for you YouTube members, where he is 15-1 against the spread since week one of 2022. Steve, good to see you. Florida State, Clemson, this should be a good one. FSU, a 2-point favorite on the road, where I came across this information this week, Steve, and there's a bit of an angle in there where Louisville was possibly a 1-point favorite against Clemson in 2016. But other than that, Clemson has not been a regular season dog since 2014 against Florida State. They haven't been an underdog in any game since the championship game, the national title game against LSU in 2019. So an unfamiliar spot for Clemson as a dog, but especially at home.
Yeah, I did. Like you said, LSU back at the end of the 19, the playoff there against Burrow, they were a 4.5 point dog, lost by 17. I did see one spot though, Mark, at least according to Mark Lawrence's playbook annual, which I was looking at earlier this week when I was researching this game. He's got them in the middle of the 2021 season at Pittsburgh in Game 7 as a 3.5 point dog. So you can double check that for me at some point. I just saw that in Mark's annual. And by the way, they lost 27-17 in that game. So if they were a dog there as well, they are 0-2 straight up ATS the last 4 years. They've only been a dog twice from what I've seen. And then, like you said, you'd have to go all the way back to the 16 season. They were a dog, of course, in the 17 finals against Bama. Lost 24-6 in that game. But then they beat them the next year, 44-16 as a dog. So yeah, only one time I've seen was perhaps in 2021, but otherwise you would have to go back to 16 for a regular season dog spot. And I think that's something important to talk about. And by the way, they were on the road at Pittsburgh, so definitely haven't been a home dog anytime in about a decade. I mean, so this is uncharted territories. And the look-ahead line this summer, the advanced line, even though a lot of people at Florida State is the heir apparent to, dethrone Clemson. Clemson was still a look-ahead 3-point favorite this summer. Now they're a 2.5 point home dog. So we have seen an adjustment. And it's interesting because Florida State did not look good last week, as you referenced. They were a 25.5 point favorite, narrowly escaped by 2 at Boston College. What's concerning to me, though, even with that LSU win back in week 1 on that Sunday night Labor Day weekend, yes, Florida State beats LSU by 21, but they still give up over 450 yards of offense. Last week, they gave up 29 points to a mediocre Boston College team. They once again give up over 450 yards on defense. I think Clemson can move the ball here. This is a Clemson team that's been down a notch offensively. And everyone looks back at week 1. We talk about the Sunday night Florida State win. Clemson looked the opposite on Monday night, Labor Day weekend. They lose 28-7 against Duke. But as I've often said, especially in the NFL, you have to disregard week 1 results. And it's funny we don't talk about it more in college because it should be even more so in college football. These guys are 19, 20-year-old kids. They played no preseason games, no exhibition games. And there's always some outliers from week 1 in both college and pro football where you can make some serious money going forward by backing those teams. And, keep in mind, Clemson had over 200 yards rushing and passing against Duke. You're not going to see teams that have a balanced attack over 400 yards have 7 points. 3 turnovers made a big difference there. So I do think this is a situation where the misleading loss in week 1, well, not the loss, but the misleading offensive output in week 1 has set up some value going forward. So I like Clemson as a live home dog here, and I think the over 55 is also worth a look for that reason because Florida State's defense looks very suspect this year, but I do think both teams are very good offensively. Both are averaging over 40 points a game. The total's only 55, and my database simulation does favor Clemson outright in this game and has them winning the yardage battles. So I think Clemson's a live dog, and I think the over makes some sense as well.
Folks, check out Steve's entire work there at wagertalk.com. Also, Wager Talk TV right here on YouTube. Steve delivers not just college football, of course, the NFL, Major League Baseball, the playoffs are coming, the NBA as well. And Steve's exclusive under the radar selection for us here at the Voice of College Football for Patreon members, patreon.com/MarkRogersTV. And then also we supply that for our YouTube members as well, right here at the Voice of College Football. Steve, appreciate you stopping by.
Hey, thanks, Mark.